But yeah, ours is important, but the ones that they're having over here at Kennedy Space Center, vitally important. Lives are on the line with Mission Control over here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool. Our own space nut, Daryl Nail, he's over here. He's actually taking a look at how Mission Control works for NASA. This is pretty cool for him.
Hi, Daryl.
Hi guys, that's right. You think TV business is stressful, or maybe you don't. I guess you said it's just not rocket surgery, right? Or brain surgery or rocket science. But this right here, this is launch control. This is where the Apollo personnel and the launch director and 400 other people that supported the Apollo launch, which took us to the moon, the first country to do so, the only country to do so. This is the room where they all sat and monitored the rocket before it took off. These men who were in here and manned these stations were some of the best and brightest in the country. Some of them, but together they were able to put that rocket on the moon. This is the actual authentic firing room from Apollo 8, which circled the moon when that launch took place. And you can see that everything that's here is perfectly as it was. 60s. Look at some of this equipment. Back then, they didn't have the phones that we have now. Like an iPhone would run circles around this stuff. But back in the day, in the 1960s, this equipment was top of the line technology. And you can see that it still actually works. Well, the dials and the buttons move and the switches flick up and down. It's not powered on, but it's amazing when you look at the technology for the 1960s. All launch control spoke on wired headsets like you see here. We actually still have these in our television rooms. But look at this. Some folks might remember this, and this would give away your age. This is a rotary telephone where you had to make a very important call. Maybe something about your system wasn't going right and you had to make a telephone call. A rotary phone. That's old school. Imagine if you had to text on this. It might actually take you a couple days to compose a message. Now, launch business was very stressful because you had three astronauts on top of a rocket that was essentially putting out 7.5 million pounds of thrust. A controlled explosion riding underneath these astronauts. Now, that's stress. You want these guys to make it, get it into space. So sometimes these guys had to resort to this, and they have this authentic piece of space history here, some old gold filter cigarettes. In fact, they've got many packs up and down the launch console here because launching was stressful business, and a lot of these guys, you can see the pictures and you go online and search for Apollo launch control, they smoked it up. It was stressful stuff. They had to have a way to relieve that stress, and you'd see them in their short sleeve button-down shirts with their thin ties. But ultimately, Neil Armstrong, who was the first man on the moon, said about the people who were in this console that he rode on the shoulders of giants, and it certainly was the case. Those men are the ones that got the glory, but the guys that manned these consoles and made sure that that rocket launched and got up into space, they certainly are credited with a great piece of our space history in getting us to the moon and being the first country and the only country to do so. John and Amy, back to you.
That was very cool, Daryl.
That's fascinating, isn't it?
Very neat. You know what's funny? I also was talking with our aerospace engineer we had out here earlier, and I said, if you were to redesign a shuttle today and say, we need to do this, what would you change? And he said, they'd keep the template. That's how far ahead it was, in the early 80s, that, you know,
so
it's so good it would still work perfectly today.
Isn't that amazing?
It's amazing stuff.
Yeah, it's a great ship.